A town frozen in time, with cultural influences from the Chinese, Japanese, French, and of course Vietnamese, which has now become a UNESCO heritage site. And that town is called Hoi An, and it's the first holiday I taken with my partner in 3 years. And both of us love photography, so we brought a camera each, and the camera that I brought with me was the X2D II with the 35-100, my only photography travel kit. And this camera impressed me. It really did. Let's talk about it. All right, so Hoi An. I got a little bit of a history with Hoi An. If you don't know where it's at exactly, it's about 30 to 45 minutes outside of Da Nang. Now, I was there in 2008, 2009. I was there for about a month. I was working on a French TV series as an actor. So I was filming there, and then my partner, she went a number of years later with friends and so forth. So we wanted to kind of just get away from the craziness of Singapore and then go to something more quaint, more beautiful, and capture photos and just eat good food and just kind of detox from craziness of life, you know? And so we chose Hoi An. And it is exactly what I remember it to be, and even more so because now I get to see it more like a tourist versus living there, which is quite interesting. And yeah, it was just a very, very special moment for us. And I think it was a great way to reconnect, but at the same time, try to capture images that I think mean something to both of us. So when we first got there, we got there in the late afternoon. And one of the customary things in Hoi An is to actually go on the boat ride, if you can, at the river and release these lanterns at night. It's a very, very beautiful scene when you see it, because these boats have all these lights around them. They're these, and you spend about an hour out there. You can have some drinks, you can take some photos, you just spend some time with your loved one or friends, and then release these little lanterns into the water. And it's great because it happens at sunset, and you got the beautiful sky in Vietnam, which, I mean, when the skies are clear, they're gorgeous, right? They can be blue during the day, but at night they got this purplish hue with the orange that comes in through the sunset and the lights from these boats that come into it. It's beautiful. Now, obviously, we weren't on it by ourselves because the hotel sort of arranged it for some guests, so it was a little bit more of a touristy thing, but we had a great time, and it was a little bit romantic at the same time, right? But this, I was curious to capture images with this because of the dynamic range and the colors behind this, how this camera would capture all that. And I think I got the essence of it. I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It focused on boats. It had no issues with the contrast and the lights. It held its own. And then after that, we went around. There was a little bit of a street market around there. And then we would see these gentlemen working on wood, and we'd see these craftsmen around there and little cats walking around. It's quaint. It's different. Like I said, it's a town frozen in time. And it's got these various different influences. I mean, this used to be I think a major shipping port between the 15th to 19th century. Then things obviously changed. So there's a lot of that influence there. So we wrapped up that night then the next morning we wanted to go to the market area. Now, luckily where our hotel stayed, we just had to walk this bridge, and then across there, that's where the market was. And the one thing about Vietnam that I remember it being, and it happened for this trip as well, is it gets bright very, very early. I mean, like 5:30 a.m., it's bright. It feels like it's 8, 9 a.m. in other places. So by 6 a.m., we're down at this market, and you're seeing, fishermen bringing fish, and there's poultry there. There's ducks along the side of the road that are getting ready to be prepared for meals later on, which was a little unfortunate. They're kind of quacking away, but this is a very different way of life versus, just going to normal markets. But that's part of the charm of Southeast Asia, and it's quite interesting to capture as well from a photography standpoint. Now, I know these are very kind of touristy photos in a sense, but it was fun for us because we do love taking photos together, and she gets excited about taking photos. I get excited, especially when there's beautiful scenes and great lighting and the colors. And you see that here, the mustard yellow paint on the walls, the vibrancy of the reds and the blues and the greens, the way that the sun comes through. It's gorgeous. It's very, very unique. And I think we captured some really nice images, and I'll be showing a video of her images in the coming weeks on the camera that she was using. But I have to say, I was very impressed with how this performed in a variety of scenarios, especially with, faster autofocus, because things are happening quite rapidly in the marketplace. And, When I first tried this camera, I think it was late last year when it was announced, I had pre-production firmware on the lens and the body. It was good, but I said in that time that, I'm on pre-production. Hopefully things do improve, and it has improved quite a bit. And the autofocus, the subject detection is really good on this. It's fast. I would say it's equivalent to some full frame cameras out there. I mean, Hasselblad's done a very, very good job. Eyes, faces, bodies, even the speed at which they move, it grabs pretty good. But it's the image quality. It's the dynamic range. It's just the way that this camera renders colors is extremely special. And I know other people have talked about this, but you really see it when you go to these kind of places, these locations, and you see the vibrancy of color around you, and you're going, I want to capture that. And this camera does that. So then afterwards, we went off to this buggy ride that would take us to the outskirts of Hoi An, where they have these rice paddy fields, the water buffalo are there, some tourist areas where you go around the coconut trees and you get around those things. And it's nice and it's quaint, but it's also interesting to see how people live outside of the main city. And we're driving by in this buggy and there's no windows, it's kind of open air. And we see these gentlemen working on the side of the road. So I'd ask if I could stop and take photos of them. And they were kind to allow me to take photos and just capture life as it's happening. And even as we're driving by the rice paddy fields and seeing the huts where people work and they live, and then you see a worker in the middle of the field and I'm just like, I want to grab a photo with this. And luckily it's 35-100, so I have a little bit of reach. And this just grabbed that subject like that. And then I took some photos of the water buffalo, which I did get off the buggy for. I wanted to get a little bit closer, but I didn't want to get too close because I didn't want to impede on its space, and I wasn't sure how it would react to me. So I kept a bit of distance, but luckily with 100 megapixels, you can crop in. Speaking of this for a second, more on a technical aspect, I know some people I've talked to are a little bit apprehensive of the size of this lens because of it being a larger lens, even though it's probably the most versatile lens in Hasselblad's lineup. And I understand that too, because I was worried about the weight, but as I used it over this trip, especially hours on end carrying it around my body, the weight disappeared. And I think because the weight distribution on the lens is more towards the rear element, it does sit well with the camera body and the way that the grip is designed. So it's a nice feeling system overall. But if you are one of those that doesn't like the weight, I would recommend a 38 or 55 2.5 V-series lens. I think those are kind of the two that I think are the ultimate travel. I mean, unless you want to go wider, you got 28 or 25, but I think 38 and 55 for me is the great kind of in between if you don't want to do something like this. But I just was really impressed by the versatility of it. And I get why Hasselblad is really proud of this lens, and rightfully so. It just does everything you really needed to do, from portraiture to landscape to street photography. It's there for you. And just again, very impressed by this system. I mean, I think the more Hasselblad's been updating it and improving it, the autofocusing performance, it's there. It really is there. And so I think I captured some images, but it was bright daylight at this point in time, which was about 11 a.m., but it felt like it's 2 p.m., right? So it's very, very bright. Probably not the most ideal time to capture an image of this. So some of them might be black and white and some are color, but I mean, you're in the moment, you try to capture what you can with the lighting that you have, right? But nonetheless, it was the experience. And then later on that afternoon, we went off to the old ancient part of Hoi An, and we saw a little place where these ladies were, they were doing this silk artwork from the silk factory, and to see them work, and they're just doing this intricate artwork now, which I couldn't photograph the artwork itself, but I could take photos of them working. And just, it's really fascinating how this is what they do every day. And these are artisans and these are craftsmen. I mean, craftswomen. Try to capture a little bit of the ambiance there as well. And the ladies were very kind enough to allow me to take photos, and it was very, very special. And then just walked around the old ancient part of Hoi An, which again, as I mentioned earlier in this video, it's got influences from the Chinese, the Japanese. There's this old Japanese bridge, I think from the 15th century when the Japanese were in there, and it still stands to this day. And it's a big tourist attraction, even though it's a very small bridge. I'm talking just like over a little bit of a waterway there, but it's cool. It's very different. And then just the flowers and the colors, and just, I mean, there's a lot of shops around there as well, and great coffee, great food, but it's really, really nice. And so then the next morning we decided, because we were only there for a few days, the next morning we would decide to go back there to take more photos, hoping that we'd get that nice sunlight that comes in, right? But unfortunately, with our luck, overcast. So it was a bit grayer, but we still captured some interesting photos. there was one in particular which was funny because we saw this floating mannequin in the water. And obviously there's restaurants and bars and things happen over there at nighttime. So it's a livelier place. But there's this like plain white mannequin in the water floating, and it's a woman's body. Looks a bit like, well, that's odd. And then so we took a couple photos of that, and this guy in a boat comes by to clean up, all the debris, and he throws the mannequin in the boat, and you see this this woman's body hanging out the boat. It was interesting. Nonetheless, kind of one of those odd, sort of weird photos that you take in a situation like that, but nonetheless, it was fun. And we took some other photos of her around there. She wanted some more, touristy Instagram photos, and did that as well. All with this, by the way, which she loves this camera too. So she was very happy. She loves the skin tones coming out of this. And then later on that day, we decided we want to go see, because they also make these mats, these very beautiful, colorful mats in the Hoi An area. We wanted to capture that because we saw a photo in the hotel of this lady with the kind of the straw hat, kind of those circular straw hats. And she's in this field of all these different colors, because obviously they dye the colors for the material to make these mats. And we thought that would be an amazing photo to get. So asked the hotel, they sent us to an area. We went out there. They sent us to another area, which ended up not being anything that we wanted to see. We ended up going to some elderly lady's home in the middle of nowhere, very small house. And it's her and two other ladies making mats with a dog barking at us. And we're like, this isn't really a touristy place. This is actually somebody's house. It was a bit odd. So we sat there looking at each other like, okay, well, when in Vietnam. So we asked them if we could take some photos. We did. They said yes. We gave them a little bit of money to thank them for their time, and they made us a little bit of bracelets, and then we just went on our way. And it's one of those funny moments, when you go to these foreign countries, and obviously English isn't their first language. And we later realized that photo that we saw was taken, I think, in the fall time, if I'm not mistaken, when it's much cooler and people can be out in the field much more, because in the summertime, it is brutally, brutally hot. But nonetheless, it was a really nice time for us to reconnect, but also just take photos. And she took some really nice photos as well. I'm excited to show you guys those. And I was really happy with how this performed. Look, I do want to say this. I know I'm very fortunate. And I first and foremost want to say thank you to all of you who watch my videos, who like and subscribe. And without you, I wouldn't have these opportunities. And I know that. And I want to thank Hasselblad as well for giving me an opportunity to take this gear out and capture images that I can remember for the rest of my life. And so in a way, this camera humbles me, and I don't take it for granted. So thank you.